today, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time working on two challenges, and the challenges brought together a clear theme to us. And here's challenge number one. So this is Eric Julius, and he sends this in and says here, I'm leading the team of young developers. I can see that sometimes I shut them down when we're solving complex problems, but I only get that feedback from a close friend on the team. So the question is, what can I do to become more aware of how I'm playing too strong? And this is a situation I remember before I was connected to multipliers in this research. I had this sense like almost all the time. I well, because I think I was playing too strong all the time. I kind of get promoted to my first management position as a power contributor, and I kind of brought that same mentality to working with, and I was working with a team of developers. They weren't young, they were much older than me. But I remember this feeling, oh, I could tell that I was just leaving a lot on the table, but I just didn't know how to get more out. So I understand where Eric's coming from. So this leads us to the first topic that we're going to go through, which is just this concept of the accidental diminisher. And we're going to try to answer this question today on how do we diminish others while having the best of intentions, and how can we become more aware of this?
Well, it's funny, Sean, just looking at Eric's challenge, it reminded me that I started my management career as an accidental diminisher. And it was some really bad management advice I got early on. My boss was a brand new manager. I was very young. And my boss said to me, your job as a leader is to handle everything that is new, important, and hard.
Mm,
So all the complex problems, he's like, you handle that and let your team handle everything else. And it sounded so smart. So smart. And so I'm handling all the complex problems. And it took me about 6 months to feel like I was doing it wrong and to realize that was the worst possible management advice I could be given because I'm the accidental diminisher. I'm trying to like buffer my team from the hard stuff. And I'm out there overextended and kind of bitter that I'm the one left handling all the hard things. And my team is sort of on easy street. And I'm also the one getting the spotlight and the credit. So I feel like, Eric, I'm so glad you recognize this. We find that most diminishing is accidental. Here's what we're going to do. We find that there are 9 really common accidental diminisher types. We're going to go through each one of these. We've got a few visuals to help us like dig into this, but on chat we invite everyone to help illuminate what happens when leaders do these things with really, really good intentions, but yet it has a diminishing impact, often as deep or deeper than the tyrannical, narcissistic, know-it-all, micromanaging, bully kind of leader. So let's go through this one at a time. We've got some pictures that we're going to show here, and I brought eyewear and headbands. I don't know if I think, Sean, you know this. I'm like the Imelda Marcos of eyewear, and I've got this whole set of silly glasses. Some of it is for teaching, some of it is to entertain my grandson who like to FaceTime me and said, "Grandma, put on the silly glasses." So I brought a few of these to help illustrate. So why don't you get us started?
okay, so how many of you are an idea fountain? You are full of ideas. You can't stop them from coming. If somebody puts a problem in front of you, the ideas are coming. You don't even have to come in contact with water to have ideas. You just have them. And and so somebody comes to you and your intention is what? If you are full of ideas, what I mean, and you're sharing them all the time as a leader, what's the intention?
Yeah, it's like so this is my representation of the idea fountain. Like ideas are just all around us and we think that we're just sharing ideas to get the party started.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to toss out a few ideas. People will recognize this is a brainstorm. We want ideation, we want creativity and innovation. But the problem is, people tend to chase the boss's ideas or, worse, they don't dig deep because they're just like going to go to the fountain ideas because like the boss is spewing
Hmm.
ideas. And this one comes from people not being power hungry, but underestimating the power. Oh, I just thought it was a little idea. Is this-
Idea fountain. I mean, you just can't have a meeting without Liz and have loads of ideas.
well, we could do this. And what about this? And I've, one of the things I've learned to do, and Sean, you do this really well too, is hard opinion, soft opinion. Like, okay, no, this is just a random idea. Don't take it seriously. Don't start a project. Just consider it.
Hmm.
I've also created a bit of a holding tank
Hmm.
to do that. Okay, that's the idea found. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the next one is always on. These people are like the energizer bunny. They are often charismatic. They are full of energy, and of course, they. Oh, you make actually a pretty pretty accurate energizer bunny. Um, they think, of course, that their energy is infectious. Like, okay, I'm bringing it. I'm motivating the team. Like, woo, we've got this. And yeah, Sean, you've been known.
I've got a serious always on inclination. It's just deep inside of me.
Um, and of course, they think their energy is infectious and motivating, energizing. But how do people describe the always on leader? Draining, exhausting, like you're killing me with this energy. And like, what do we tend to do to them? Like, they shut down others. But then what do we tend to do? Like, what do you do when you see like an always on, like a person without an off switch coming down to your office? No, it's we back away. We avert our eyes. We pretend to be on an important phone call. They shut down others, and we tend to shut them down as well. This is a scenario where absolutely no one gets heard. Okay, someone says, Help me understand their experience, not understanding the reference." So, what these two pictures are, on the left, you'll see the intention of the leader, and on the right, you'll see the experience that people around them have. So, it's not like the person's experience that they bring to it, just the experience they have when leaders do this. Thank you for asking that question. Okay.
How about the rescuer? So how many of you are compassionate and you hate to see people fail? So when people start to struggle, you
Oh, yeah, you're like big hard eyes. You're like, "Oh, I love this person. I want them to be successful. I want them to be successful with me. I care about them."
but what's the result? If you're always rushing in to save the day, it has an effect on people. People start to worry that that they're not capable, that they don't have the ability to get the job done. It causes all sorts of confidence problems, and and now they feel like they need to be rescued in the future.
Yeah, people are rendered helpless. And of course, we think we're sending this loving message of, "I care about you. I want you to be successful. You're going to be successful here." But what's the message in our behavior? And I want to pause here for a moment and open up chat on this. What is messaged in the behavior when the leader steps in to rescue someone?
Mhm.
Okay, what do we see here?
Well, why that's going, I'm just gonna think about a time that I was rescued, um, and I remembered it was pretty early in my career, and I was, working in a kind of like a technical sales role, and the salesperson that led the team had extreme product knowledge. It was a complicated product, and when clients would ask me tough questions in these big demonstrations, or we would be doing these consulting visits, this before I could even get it out, if it was a hard problem, they would just rush in and start answering if it was semi complicated, they would rush in and answer the question. And he would say to me, "Hey, I've got your back in these meetings. I can help you out when the hard stuff comes." But I just kind of flatlined. you know
It's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, we do tend to flatline around them, and the message is, "Oh boy, we've got so much here." Like, okay, we've got so many answers. You can't do it. Need my help. You can't handle it yourself. You're not good enough. It tells me you're not capable. Um, Dependency, a lack of confidence. I don't trust. It telegraphs the essence
Mhm.
of the diminisher mindset. But we do it, of course, with kind of like big heart eyes for the people we care about them. But it actually says, "I don't trust you and I don't think you can do it. And I don't think you can do it without me."
Right.
Okay. Next one, the pace setter. The pace setter, this is the driven leader, the achievement oriented leader. And in many ways, they're leading by example. Yeah, they're like the pace car. They're like a lightning McQueen. They're wanting to like get out ahead of people and show people what good looks like. Like, and of course, we should role model ethics and integrity, But what happens when the leader becomes the role model for good work?
Hmm.
Like, okay, we're going to be more customer savvy. So I'm going to spend time really with our customers. We're going to be more digitally focused. Okay, I'm going to go out and explore new AI tools. Like the leader gets out ahead of their team, but what happens to the team?
Yeah, you end up with spectators instead of followers. People are going to slow down, and I mean, like you decide here in this little video who's the contributor and who's the leader. I mean, and what can this black lab do? I mean, about the only thing they can do is be like, "Hey, boss, when you lap me, tell me what you want me to do."
Throw me a project. Like I would love to help. And it's something that, Sean and I have both really, really come to understand deeply is not just what good and bad leadership looks like, is that we've really come to understand how desperately people want to contribute.
Hmm.
They want to be part of it rather than, you know, left to be a spectator. They want to be doing laps
Hmm.
rather than in the pit crew.
Hmm.
Okay.
How about the rapid responder? This is the leader that
Oh,
they want. They want speed, they want agility, they want to move things forward. An email comes in, they send an email, comes into all of you, or somebody sends an email, maybe their name's not even on it, 12 o'clock, and they're like 12:02, like all the time, immediately, almost at light speed, they're responding super fast.
their hair's on
They're,
fire.
they're pretty much on fire
Yeah.
all the time. And so, they want movement. But
They want movement for their team.
right.
So it's like, I'm going to be fast so that my team can move fast.
Mhm. But what happens when you work for a rapid responder? Well, people start to think, how long has it been? 3 minutes? They're almost ready to hit the send button. I'll just let them take care of that. And so people just kind of let the boss fill in the in the blanks.
Yeah, and it's almost like we imagine the 3 dots. You know the 3 dots
Mm.
when someone's
Yeah.
writing a text message to you? You're like, "Oh, let me not respond and let me wait for their response to come in." It's like we're imagining that in email. Like, "Okay, I shouldn't jump on this because they're probably writing their
Yeah.
response right now." This absolutely erodes ownership inside
Mm.
organizations when, like, the leaders got their hair on fire and they're moving fast. Other people move slow. They wait for the leader, and ownership gets confused because even if you own it, if the boss is quick to jump on it, who owns it now?
Hmm.
They do.
They do, right?
Yeah. Okay. What have we got next? Oh, this is the Optimist, and I'm surprised you aren't already pointing at me. Okay, here we go. Um, this is the Optimist. These are positive, can-do leaders. This is definitely one of mine. They're wearing rose-colored glasses. Everything looks kind of happy and sunny. And even if they see like the problems and reality, they're trying to focus on what's going to go well, what's going to go right. They see victory. They believe in people, but of course, the problem with that, and this one took me a little while to figure out, like the problem with this, if the leader only sees the upside, what does it relegate the team to do? Like, what does their job become?
Yeah, well, it's just the downside, and you start to really worry that the leader doesn't see.
Your struggle.
Right. And when I've worked for leaders that don't see my struggle, man, it's hard to hold that line. Because, you're in the thick of it, and you're worried, you're stressed, you're challenged, you're wearing this all the time. And so to have that be invisible and just be told, "Hey, it's not that hard," or "This can't be that bad. Of course you can do it." You all of a sudden start to get the sense that they are completely unaware of how difficult things are for you. So then therefore you are invisible to them.
Yeah. This one I had to learn when a colleague said, "Liz, I need you to stop saying that." And I said, "Saying what?" He goes, "Oh, that thing you say all the time." And I truly did not know what it was I was saying all the time. He goes, "Oh," and he was so excited to educate me. And I'm like, "Oh, this can't be hard. How hard can it be?" And I was like, "Oh, I do say that." And that's deep in my programming of having been thrown into management early on, worked for a very demanding, rapid growing company, Oracle. And you learn to tell yourself, we can do this. This can't be hard. And I'm like, oh, that's my way of saying, like, I think we can do this. I think we're smart and capable. Like it's the essence of multiplier logic.
Yeah.
So I thought it was so good. And he goes, no, no, no. He goes, this is what I need you to stop saying. And he says, because what we're doing is hard.
Mhm.
And as my boss, I need you to acknowledge it.
Mhm.
And because, like, I'm so deeply an optimist, I'm thinking, "Well, I could stop saying that because that can't be that hard." And it turns out
No,
it's
this
hard.
one's hard to turn off.
All the accidental diminisher things are hard to turn off, and you don't necessarily have to eradicate that tendency.
Yeah.
And no one wants a pessimist for a boss.
Yeah, organizations need optimists.
Yes, but it's learning to see that your experience is different than somebody else's
Yeah.
experience. It's learning to see through the eyes of somebody else's experience with you
Mhm.
as their leader. And it is something I've learned to do better, to signal the struggle, which is
Mm,
one of the workarounds, to just
mhm.
talk about this is hard. We're probably going to make some mistakes. This one sucks a little bit.
Yeah.
And when the leader takes that position, it allows the people around them to see some upside.
Mhm.
Okay.
Next one. How about the protector? This is the leader who, when hard things come in from senior leadership or from a client and they recognize that it may take, maybe you need some skill or some experience, they take those tough ones. But what's the consequence when, what's the consequence? This is,
We can't get Austin to laugh, but I've gotten you to laugh.
so what's the consequence when the leader always takes on the hard things, when they're in there with the gloves and the goggles and they do the messy work? What's the consequence?
Well, I had never thought about it until I put on these $5 protective lens, which are kind of foggy and you can't see. It's like when you become like the shield to other people, they can't see the issue. They're-
It's no, it's like your hair with these. It's so good, Liz. I want you to wear these through the airport.
Yes, but I'm not sure if I should be welding or snorkeling in those. But yeah, no, when I think the leader tries to shield people from reality, they don't see reality. And when the leader shields people from difficult things, they never learn to do the difficult things.
Yeah.
Uh,
So there's no growth.
yeah, and they're like a banyan tree. And this is why this one's so tricky, is because it is so accidental. And in many ways, these are really lovely people to work for because they shield us from heat and hard things, but the problem with the banyan tree is nothing grows under the banyan tree and nobody grows under these leaders.
Hmm. Okay, what do we have next? What about the strategist?
Strategists, big, bold thinkers, like they've got their head in the clouds. These are definitely festival wear for you. But like, yeah, they're sort of like seeing the big picture, the big vision, which of course leaders need to cast a vision. They need to be able to show people like, hey, this is a possibility for us. But they do so much of the big, bold thinking that nobody else has to. Like,
Mm.
they're up at 30,000 feet, and so everyone else is stuck down at ground level, and they see the whole big picture, but everyone else is just doing their piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to start to feel like, and because you can't see the big picture like they can, you just defer to their thinking. It's hard to, and it's hard to weigh in even on the small little myopic details while that's so needed when you know that there's a bigger breakthrough beyond the next horizon thing that's being talked about constantly. Okay, and how about
I think we're to our last one.
yes. How about the perfectionist? This is the leader there. Most of us can identify this. You are very intensely needing and desiring quality. You want people to do great work throughout your team. You want to share great work with clients. You want to share great work with your bosses. And so the perfectionist tends to correct people when they don't have it quite right. And so if you've had this experience or if you're this way, you give out a lot of feedback, not just a little bit of feedback. And
And they want sparkle. I
yeah,
mean, they definitely want things plussed up extra, and it feels so good to them, but the reality is, they create a huge burden
yeah.
for people around them, and not everything needs to be done perfectly. And this is one where if you've got perfectionist tendencies, you probably know it, but you might not know what the experience is like for other people. So let's do this one on chat as well. I definitely can. You got to try these on. I mean,
Whoa, yes.
yeah. What? What is it like to work for a perfectionist boss? Would you fill chat with that? And there'll probably be things in here we haven't seen before. Like you are definitely not going to be able to read chat with those on. Um, when you work for someone who's got to get the A plus every time, because the only thing better than an A plus is all A pluses. Like everything is sparkling. Like it's demoralizing. Monica, thank you when you make a mistake. She over edits my memos, and I feel bad.
We should just give the visual to that because
Yeah,
of course,
this
yes.
is what a day at work feels like.
Yeah.
Blood loss,
Mhm.
correction, and, like, what happens when your work gets constantly redone, upgraded? What is it teaching somebody to do?
Yeah. It teaches you to do 80% work and give it to them from there because they're gonna finish it or change it anyways.
Here's a really good comment from Don. It says, "You don't wanna deliver good work." Yeah, I remember someone said, I learned like, I just started to send her incomplete work because she was gonna redo it anyway. So, like, you're not even motivated to do your best work.
Really?
You're like, "Well, they seem to like redoing it and undoing it." Yeah, there's no appreciation for the work that has been done.
Mhm. Okay, so we're gonna put up a poll. Which Which one of these do you see the most in yourself? And I mean, and as we're putting this poll up, as you're putting these answers, listen, if you were to flip the lens and think about this from a contributor perspective, most of these are just our strengths. You want people full of ideas. They're willing to, if they see somebody struggling, they step in to try to save the day. So it's not that these are bad, but as a leader, they sometimes show up as a bit of a leadership liability, especially if we're not aware that we're doing it to a diminishing rate.
Again, my first management advice was do everything new, important, and hard.
Yeah.
And it put me in protector mode. It put me in rapid responder mode. It put me in these modes, and it wasn't until I saw an idle team.
Hmm.
Ah,
Hey, Liz
I
and Sean,
realized
there's an interesting question here that I think might help, and it's a common one we hear is what's the distinction between a rescuer and a protector? There's some of that question I've seen a couple of people ask about that.
hmm,
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, protectors tend to head things off at the pass. They see hard things coming, and the team oftentimes never gets a crack at those projects. Whereas think of this on the opposite side. The rescuer is they see someone struggling, maybe a new contributor or a new project come in, maybe the milestones are being met. Actually, I'm the rescuer. I'll share a little bit more about myself as a rescuer. And so you're not seeing movement and they're struggling, so then you rush in to save the day. So it's kind of like orientation to um, protectors act as filters, like that banyan tree. No water makes it through, no sunlight makes it through underneath.
yeah, and it's like the protector has is a rescuer that has moved upstream of the
Right.
problem. They are heading it off as the at the pass, as Sean said. They're not letting people get into trouble.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an insidious form of
Yeah.
accidental diminishing.
Yeah, and for me, actually, they go hand in hand. I I rescue and I protect. It's just and I think that I protect when I can see something coming, and so I tend to position myself to protect my team. I rescue a lot of times when I'm surprised. Well, I've delegated and maybe nothing's moving.
So, Sean, I was teaching a multipliers workshop. It was with a really fun group from Google, and a woman said, "Oh, my son said to me," and this was her son who was just getting ready to go off to college. So he's now, like 18, headed off to college, and he's like, "Mom, you wrecked my life because my life was so easy."
Mm,
And she was, of course, like full of, she was indignant of
mhm,
his comment, and I've like listened, and I'm like, well, he has a point.
mm,
He has a point that when we make it too easy for the people we lead, the people that we are raising in our homes, we are leaving them ill prepared,
yeah.
like undernourished little weaklings in dealing with some of the hard problems. So, yeah, I don't know that. And I think he was being facetious with her, of course, but it's not like we wreck people, but we stunt development.
Yeah, right. Well, let's take a look at where do we go from here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share in the chat One of the best things that you can do as you are aware of your accidental diminishing tendencies as you were thinking about this, but your team may be aware of them because how it's affecting them, but you want to share these ideas. If you can get the language in your team, so I'm going to put into the chat. These are the multiplier discussion slides, and it's just the 9 accidental diminishing tendencies that we went through: intention and outcome. And if you share these with your team and tell them as you share them, share, you're going through these slides, say, I know I'm a rescuer, but I want for you to all tell me what you see in me as well. Ask for examples. Once you've done one round of that, there's this language that's growing in the team. Then you can have everybody in the team do the same thing. Okay, well, when Liz steps up to take the lead, Liz, what do you see in yourself? And she can sign up for what she sees, and then she can ask for feedback. What do others see in her? Now, what this does is it gives you the ability to start to have this conversation. And this is where the feedback, this is where you make it possible for feedback to occur. We call this the 3-minute 360. It's just very quick. Share the slides, tell them what you see, ask everybody else what they see, and then wash, rinse, and repeat with everyone else in the room. Now, all of a sudden, you have the language going forward. Now you can do things like this. Hey, I know that I tend to be a little bit of an idea fountain. If you see me going in idea fountain mode in this meeting, just give me one of these, or whatever, however you want that feedback after the meeting. But without that language, there's no chance that it's unlikely that somebody will be able to give you the feedback when your accidental diminishing tendencies are showing up.
Mm. Talking about these is one of the most powerful things that a leader can do. And I think when I started this work, Shawn, I was really focused on the multiplier practices. Here's what you need to do, and here's the training and the skill building and the mindset building to have leaders be multipliers and to get this multiplier effect. And I've come to see that there is a faster way
Mm,
to get this dynamic on the team with, full utilization of people's intelligence. And it's actually kind of the lazy way as
mm,
well. And that is to just talk about it as a team. Now, we're going to share a few tools for doing that. The first is we've got a set of slides
mhm.
that you can use to talk about this, a slide for each one of the accidental diminisher tendencies. I mean, I got my silly glasses, but, just some simple slides can work. Another way to do it is, the stickers. And I think it was Centene Corporation was the first time I went to talk about multipliers with them, and they had this idea of they were gonna give everyone the names of these accidental diminisher tendencies to put on their lanyard
Mm.
badges, and it was fun, and so I decided we're taking that to the next level. We put, like, the full pictures and everything. We often will share, a set of stickers for everyone in a workshop where people can say, I'm an idea fountain, and the idea is like you stick it on yourself. I always tell people, these are meant to stick on you, but if someone sticks one on you, that's feedback. Yeah, so like I might come up to you and like, Shawn, just in case like you don't already got this one going, like you might want to contemplate that one. And it's a really fun way to do this. I've seen people put these on their lapels, on their name badges, their lanyards.
Or on their head.
Yeah, this was just last week. I was with this really fun group at Intermountain Healthcare, and I look over and they're talking. They're doing this 3 minutes, 360. They're finding colleagues who can give them feedback. And I look over, and this physician leader has got them on his glasses. And I'm like, that is wearing it with such
Mhm.
pride. And he was delighted when I took this picture. But it's broadcasting the things you do with really good intentions that could be diminishing because when you broadcast them, people know you're comfortable with them.
Mhm.
And I would say the high watermark on this, if you've done it well, not only do you talk about it once, you talk about it often. And not only do you talk about it, the people who work for you talk about it. And the true high watermark, if you've done this really well, people tease you about it.
Mhm.
They laugh at you about it because if you're really comfortable with it, it means people are comfortable calling it out in the moment. Like
Yeah.
they can do this in real time. And it is when it becomes the language of the team, we can talk about it. Now, just yesterday, we saw another fun example. This came from my daughter.
Hmm.
who is an HR leader at Pura, which is a fragrance company. They do home-based fragrances and car-based fragrances. And she sent me this. She said, "Hey, mom, I used she had been doing some multipliers development with the management team that she works with, and she said, I used Chat GPT and created this image. So this is the profile of the Pura sales team, and everyone's Megan is always on, and we've got a rapid responder, a perfectionist, a rescuer, a pace setter,
Hmm.
and like what happens? And maybe let's pause here and chat. What happens when everyone on the team knows each other's accidental diminisher tendencies? What are just the myriad of things that just happen easily and naturally?
Yeah.
And I don't mean the kind of things where you have to be like, Sean, can I talk to you? Like, you're rescuing. It makes me feel bad about myself. It doesn't require like a hard conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is one of these things, that Navy SEAL saying, "Slow is fast and fast is slow." I think it's their motto. This is one of those scenarios by slowing down and getting the language in the team, and making it safe to name these. Now, all of a sudden, while you're needing to go fast, you can get this feedback on the fly because people feel it's safe, it's in the team, and so you can now make little course adjustments in times when actually you need to be moving, you need to be getting things done rather than having scenarios where maybe if you're rescuing somebody and now they're not taking ownership or you're protecting somebody from a challenge, that really kind of grinds things to a halt. And sometimes you're not sure why. But if you can get the language in and make it comfortable and easy and natural, now you can make course adjustments when you need to, but in the times where time really matters.
Right. And if you are rescuing me, I don't need to tell you, you're suffocating me as a leader. All I have to do is kind of be like, I got it.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate it. Like, I totally get it. And you kind of feel the heart eyes, like, oh, this person cares about me and doesn't want me to struggle or fail. But I can just assert my capability,
Yeah.
channel my inner 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let's go to Andrew. What are you seeing in chat? Like, what happens on a team when people know each other's accidental diminisher tendencies?
Oh, as always, we have the smartest group. Every one of them have kind of alluded to that there's an understanding. Sarah Moyne talks about a tolerance, though tolerance capacity seems to just elevate for the
Hmm.
group. And there's a little bit more grace, right? Alicia says the same thing, and that empathy grows. You can address things openly. One of the things that I think is really fascinating that you've both alluded to is in those peacetime patterns that you establish, when accidental diminishing isn't ratcheted up, dialed up, if you've established that commonality and language and pattern, people will be more likely when it gets stressful, when it gets rough, if they have this routine of talking about it, they'll be able to express it so that when it does get tough, people can open it up to you and have. I love what you said, Liz, even at times joke about it to make work light for others along the way.
Okay. Andrew, thank you. And I also noticed in chat, Brian kind of had a question about how do you issue a challenge. I want to get to that, but why don't we talk about what you can do? Because talking about it with your team is one thing, but how do you address an accidental diminisher tendency? Because just talking about it isn't enough. That makes things really easy, but then it's like, how do you make a move towards being more of a multiplier? We're going to talk about how do you build a habit. Sean, you're going to lead us through that. And then I'm going to talk about a few simple workarounds, and we're going to manage our time so that, Brian, we can get back to your question.
Yeah. And this is fun. I love this question that we got teed up here from the Leadership Matters community. I know I'm a rescuer, but I don't seem to notice until after I've done the deed. I want to spot the
Oops, you
situation
did it again.
that gets me into trouble.
Yeah, Brit.
What tools do you have to stop this nonsense? Smiley face. Thanks, Jake. So let's talk a little bit about this last portion is remedies. So first and foremost, spotting and stopping your accidental diminishing tendency. Um, well, I have a tendency to be, you can imagine, a bit of a rescuer. I hate to see people struggle, and I need for things to go forward. And so, um, when I see somebody struggling, I do have this tendency to rush in to save the day. And what triggers it, which is kind of the thing, once you've got the feedback and you know that you have a tendency to rescue, the next question is what triggers it. So for me, it's when someone misses a milestone, an important project. So what do? I jump in, I take lead on the project. Things start moving to completion. That's important. I get what I want. This is the reasons why I do this. And also, it makes me feel like awesome, actually, because I love to solve problems. But unfortunately, there's a consequence. Or people stop taking ownership of those challenges in the future because
Because why would they need to?
yeah,
Sean's on it.
they're kind of wondering, look, why am I here? So this when I realized this, I really started working on one multiplier practice. I was able to zero in on that trigger, and um, so when I saw it, I would engage and I would help, go to the board with them, get some movement on the problem, help them overcome inertia, but not finish. Don't solve the problem, Sean. That's what I learned. Help. Get them back up, dust them off, get the bike maybe even out of the ditch, but they need to ride that bike home. You can't walk that bike home. And so we call this giving the pin back. So now I'm helping solve the problem, but I can see that we're winning. I step away from the board, give it back to the owner so they can move it to completion. Now, what do you get? Well, you get this, you still feel valuable because you were able to jump in and help, but now they feel this empowerment, they're confident, and you get the opposite result, which is the multiplier consequence. They grow, and also they can share their struggles with you because they're not worried that you're going to rip it out of their hands if they're wobbling a little bit.
I love your metaphor of ripping it out of their hands because sometimes when we step in to help, it does feel like we're, ripping the pen out of people's hand. And for us, like this pen represent not this pen, but the concept of the pen represents ownership and power and authority. And so when we help, it's kind of like an aggressive help is like ripping the pen out of someone's hand.
Mm.
Like, of course, messaging, I don't think you can do it. And I love just this notion of when someone's struggling, it's irresponsible not to help, but you've got to hand
Yeah.
a pen back. And I like to think of it as what is this? And like when I've done it well, and I don't always do it well, but when I've done it well, you've given someone the smallest amount of help possible for them to get back on track.
Mhm.
It might just be lifting the
Yeah.
bike out of the
It
ditch,
doesn't
dusting
mean
them
an
off.
absentee boss because they may need a little bit of help out of that ditch. Um, but the smallest amount of help possible, then now they've got the role to play.
Right. And because when you give that smallest amount of help, it's saying you don't need a lot of help. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong here. It's not like you can't get back up on the bike. But I'm also here to help you. That small, tiny amount of help. So I think it's a wonderful, you know, antidote to rescuing. What is the smallest amount of help
Hmm.
that will help someone be able to take it back themselves?
So we have a few of these that we've collected, and you'll see this in multipliers and the accidental diminisher chapter. And so what we've done is we've collected this table that gives you this panoramic view. We'll send this out post show for everyone that's attended today. You've got your attention, your outcomes, some simple workarounds that we've found to be super useful. Any that we haven't talked about, Liz, that you think are just worth mentioning?
Yeah, this is in the book. It's on page 208 and 209. And I know that because it's probably the most important 2 pages of the book. And when we did the first print run of the second edition of the book, it was printed wrong. There were two
I get the book
ranks.
at night. So, the book comes, order it. That's the fun of it. The book's coming out. I open up the copy that, from Amazon. I open it up and um I was thumbing through, and of course you go right to this spread, and I look at it and went, oh, and called Liz immediately. It was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This was my first time around the block with something like this. There's 25,000 copies that were printed with the page one duplicated, and they ended up providing a little slip in, but
Yeah, yeah. It was a rough day,
it was
wasn't
like,
it?
how can we get double print on the most important spread in the entire book?
Yeah. So it's on page 208 if you have the book. It's here on the screen. For the idea guy, a holding tank. It's like, if you've got a bunch of ideas, write them down. Maybe you keep it in your notebook, your moleskin, or maybe for me, I put them on post-it notes and I put them on my monitor. And if a week goes by and it's just not that important. I actually have a box on my desk where I just kind of put them just in case, I don't know, I want to like walk down memory lane, but you create a holding tank for your ideas so that you are not disruptive to people around you. A little simple workaround for always on is say it once.
Oof.
Say it once and say it well.
Oh my heck. This took me time, but what it did was it just helped me hear myself. I started to notice when I said it the second and the third, and then with shame the fourth time. I mean, I just really had to work on this, and so I found this one to be very, very useful, saying it once. And I'll just say, I'll just jump ahead one. Here's another one that's been super useful for me, which is, I tend to be a pace setter when the situation is when I'm solving a really complicated problem and I know that we haven't done it before as a team. And I'll go into this kind of a cave mode where I'll go research, how do we solve that problem? And I oftentimes won't tell the team what I'm doing, and so then I reemerge with all of this thinking and this research, and they're like, well, "You've been working on this for 2 months? Like, you didn't involve us in any of this?" And
2 months.
and so I've learned, like, oh, it's really important to stay in sight. So the simple question I ask myself is, on the projects that I'm really working on, am I within sight?
Yeah. So people don't get lost and can keep up with you. A rescuer tendency, we've talked a lot about that smallest amount of help, but also ask for the fix. Just like when someone comes in, I think most of the time when people come in asking for help from their boss, they already have a fix in mind. They want to discuss it and they want permission.
Mhm.
That's a simple workaround. My favorite, because I've got some rapid responder tendencies, I mostly quelled this, but it involves more glasses. So I got to put on my donut glasses for this. I remember that I am the daughter of a donut maker. My dad had a donut shop, and so we were very popular in the neighborhood because we always had donuts. They were usually day old donuts, and so I think about this as like don't solve fresh problems.
Mm,
Let other people solve fresh problems, solve day-old problems.
mm,
Like, give people and here it says, "Set a mandatory waiting period." Like, for me, that's 24 hours, which, gives people a chance to come out of their meetings, or maybe they're off at their kids' softball game, maybe they're catching up later that evening. Like, give people a chance to respond and then jump in when people aren't responding, or maybe they're not clear that it's them. So when you jump in to respond, it's not necessarily to fix the problem, it's to make sure the problem has an owner
mm,
to it. And so I just think of that as like day old donuts,
mhm.
solve day old problems. Okay, what else have we got
Well, I'm
on
gonna
that
jump to the
list?
the the end because I think it's really relevant. It was not too long ago that we were out doing some work in Manhattan with a fashion brand, very, very successful in the world, and they had a challenge that leaders were sharing, even commiserating a little bit, that the newer talent that they had hired in the last 3 or 4 years were really struggling to take accountability for difficult problems. And as we were exploring solutions to this, there were some people that had said, "Hey, listen, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I'm wondering if I'm contributing to the problem because I'm always telling them how what they're doing, they're not taking enough accountability, they're not putting enough energy into it, they're not owning it enough," and realized that this was having the opposite effect. So we did a little experiment. We had all of these leaders be very, very clear about defining what the standard was that they were looking for, and have the ability to talk through the difference between where they wanted a piece of work, but where it came in at, but then asking people to go back and to close the gap. Just this little practice of they came back to realize, they said, we realized we were not defining the standard,
Mm.
and combo that with perfectionism and somebody who's a little bit stuck in a commitment gap. They're not too sure if they're into this work game yet, or that they really want to be involved in, kind of like chasing a career. It was just causing people to check out. But combo this with clearly defined standards and then recommendations on what they needed to do to close the gap. Now, all of a sudden, this young talent started to lean into these problems, and the perfectionists, the accidental diminishing was remedied.
Yeah. And this kind of this practice sort of evolved into the three whats and proves that we can't really get through a leadership matters session without talking about the three whats practice, which is here's what great looks like, here's what complete looks like, here's what you don't need to worry about. When you define that standard, you don't have to go in and do people's work. Let me share another one for perfectionists. We had a number. How many perfectionists did we have here? 12%. This was one that a partner in a big law firm shared with me. He had read Multipliers. He said it really came at a good time for him because he had just been made partner. And he decided, and he said, I have perfectionist tendencies. Maybe all lawyers do. It's either in us or trained in us. And he said, I made a decision that when I became partner, I would only correct people's work that was legally inaccurate.
Hmm.
So if he could have said it better or like formatted it differently, he said he let all of that go and he focused his corrections on things that created legal risk for their clients and, of course, for the firm. And I think it's a wonderful, and he says it's made all the difference. And can you imagine what it would be like working for someone who could kind of temper their perfectionist tendencies, help you fix anything that your work that was legally inaccurate, but then let all the small stuff
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
Like, how great would it be to work for that partner?
Yeah, right.
You would want to be on those projects. He said it's made all the difference
Mm,
for me
mm,
and my team. So you might decide what is the type of work that you do that has to be corrected
mhm.
and what can you let go?
Yeah. Well, this gets us we have just 4 minutes left. Let's, circle back to this question that you spotted earlier.
I found it. Brian Casey says, how do you balance being a challenger versus a diminisher? What can you specifically look for to hold a high bar that's motivating without being exhausting?
Mm,
And when I thought of this one, I just thought about like breaking down the challenge. I think when leaders are constantly raising the bar and it's too far. It's like when my son is like, "Come on, mom, let's see your hops." And like he wants me to jump up like 2 feet
mm,
onto the platform. I'm like, "Yeah, I got a 2-inch vertical leap."
mhm,
Like that's but like, could you raise your vertical leap by an inch?
mhm,
Well, yeah, I could do that. And
mm,
then I could build the strength and the confidence to do that again. I think of the Matt McCauley story in the Multipliers book about, him continuing to raise the bar, but breaking it down into increments that were just felt a little bit impossible, but just perhaps doable,
mm,
celebrating after each increment. And so, like, the way that you can continually challenge people is like, get that stretch right.
mhm,
Like, what's the tightest it can go without breaking someone?
mhm,
Give people a little bit of a pause in between that, a moment to relax,
mhm.
to celebrate that, to capture learning, and then add another
Yeah,
stretch on top of it. It's becoming a serial challenger rather than a mega
yeah.
challenger.
And one of the things that I just thought about that every time that you go through those little iterations, you believe more. And that's what you're wanting to do here. Is you're wanting to stoke belief in the process. Because when people believe, well, what do they do when they're a little uncomfortable? If they believe, they lean in. If they don't believe, and so
Very much so.
I think that that's the magic of getting that right. You maintain this, uh, even if it's just almost a fool's hope, but just enough hope that they can lean in, I think is what you're targeting there. Okay, I think that brings us to time. Listen, it's been wonderful to be with all of you. I want to just say one more time, if you're running book clubs, take me up on my offer. I think we put my email address in the chat. We will we will get you one of these kits as you're buying books for your teens to read multipliers, and we're just so thrilled to be able to share this with you. And we'll have some goodies that we'll post, some of these files that we shared. We put one in the chat earlier, but really it's been a thrill to be with you. If you're celebrating Halloween, happy Halloween. Make it a safe one. Liz, do you have anything else to say before we're out?
Well, let me see. Let me channel some Britney Spears on this. Like maybe when we're doing this well, we go from "Oops, I did it again," and "I'm doing it again" to you know what? This is what I tend to do. This is why I tend to do it. I'm probably going to do it again. And this is what you can do to stop me when I do it. And then contribution goes up across the whole team.
I love it. Thanks everybody for attending with us. We look forward to joining you again on another Leadership Matters, and have a wonderful holiday weekend.